Hi, welcome back to Random Reading Pathways. I'm Matt, and it's about halfway through the month almost, and that coincides with me being halfway through quite a few books. So I just figured I would do sort of a midpoint of the month check-in, just trying to keep this a little more of a casual update, nothing too specific other than going over what I've been reading and where I'm at with certain things. In the spirit of keeping it casual, I did want to add a cozy teacup vibe to this. I really do enjoy, for some reason, people's sort of casual book updates when they're sipping on a cup of coffee or tea. Really, the allure of that gets to me, and I must admit. So I'm going to try to join the party here. So yeah, just want to give a little quick update. I did finish a book the last couple days. So this is Friday Night Lights, H.G. Bissinger, otherwise known as Buzz Bissinger, which is, I think, the name that he's more commonly gone by in recent years. But yeah, I featured in a recent video of myself picking this as my next read, with the random number generator off my TBR, and finished it. So yeah, I like this. I definitely enjoyed it. I think the most natural thing for me with this is to sort of compare and contrast to the movie, because the movie is sort of what brought me to read this book. So, if you haven't seen Friday Night Lights, the movie, it won't make a ton of sense, but I would recommend you watch that. I've always enjoyed it very much. But basically, it covers the Permian High School football team in 1988. It chronicles their full season in 1988, starting with the preseason and then goes through the season. But it gives a lot of great history and other details that really are not so prominent in the movie, such as it talks about sort of more of the history of the town and sort of how it was built up, compares and contrasts it with other towns, which was nice because, it compares them socioeconomically, compares them sort of racially, and goes over some instances of when they have come to blows with each other, politically and whatnot. And it was nice to see that, because it kind of, they play each other in football, of course, during the course of the book. So getting some more of that backdrop between the different towns and the different makeups of the towns and why they kind of clash with each other off the field made it that much more intriguing to see them, go at each other on the field. So yeah, the movie didn't do so much of that. It focused more on the characters, more on the players. One of which I would probably highlight as my biggest difference here. Again, if you haven't seen the movie, probably wouldn't know. But in the movie, one of the most prominent characters is Boobie Miles, who's kind of like the star running back, but he has a big downfall because he suffers a unfortunate injury. So, but the difference in the book is, chronologically, how the book unfolds is Boobie Miles, basically you don't get any aspect of him in this book of being a star. He's already sort of hurt. He maybe goes to a practice or a scrimmage at the beginning of this and gets hurt, and that's it. You don't get any of the star Boobie Miles in this book like you do in the movie. In the movie, you get lots and lots of scenes of his dominance and his incredible talent on the football field, only to see that kind of swept up from under him when he gets hurt. So to me, that worked better in the movie, only because you got to see Boobie Miles as a superstar, and then you got to see him hurt, and you got to see him after that, and kind of how he deals with that emotionally, and how it kind of wrecks him a little bit. And in this, I'm sure it's just more historically accurate, but you don't get that. You get more of, he's excited for the season. They're primed and ready to go to the state championship, and Boobie is going to be, the star that leads the way, but it's all deflated from him right from the get-go. He doesn't even get a single game where he is that normal player that he's used to being. So yeah, definitely interesting to see that difference. Also, the movie features Tim McGraw, the country singer, as one of the players' dads, and he gives an incredible performance, I think, in the movie. He's kind of a raging drunk. He's really hard on his son, who is Don Billingsley, who's featured in the book quite a bit. And you can see in the book the nuggets in there where they get the idea of Don and his father and him being a drunk and living vicariously through Don because he was an ex-football player back in his day. So you could see where they get the ideas from that they expand upon in the movie. But I thought they did a great job in the movie, taking that storyline and really focusing on it. And like I said, Tim McGraw's performance in this movie is really underrated, I think. But it was interesting. It wasn't as featured in the book, but certainly enough where you could see where they got it from. So yeah, I was happy to be able to read this, and I am due for another watch of the movie. So with this fresh in my mind, I will go ahead and check that out once again. And so the next little update based on that is, I always like to highlight any instances of a book leading me to another book. That's kind of part of the whole idea here. So, in looking into this book and kind of reading a little bit more of the background of the time period and the football team, it's basically West Texas football. And so looking into that, one book that came up in my reading on that, which is set a little bit earlier, quite a bit earlier, I believe, than Friday Night Lights, which is set in the late 80s. This book is, let me just see if I can get a decent picture of it here for you. I'm trying to keep this casual and avoid sort of like having to edit and flash images on the screen. I just want to sort of do a cozy little easy update here. And going forward, hopefully I'll try to do the same. But so this is Don Delillo, Endzone. So I came across this in the course of just kind of reading more about the backdrop of Friday Night Lights. And somehow one article led me to another, led me to this. And Don Delillo is just a name that I've always been interested in getting to at some point as an author. I've been meaning to check him out at some point, and so I kind of let these things happen. If one book sort of leads me to another, and I see an author that, I've been interested in checking that author out, and this book seems like a nice segue to that, then I'll go ahead and add it to my TBR. And I really like to report on this channel on TBR editions, because to me that's the whole idea of my random reading pathway is sort of TBR editions for me are just as important as finished books, because that's sort of like charting my course of how I'm going to be reading. So about Endzone by Don Delillo. So a darkly funny satire of human nature and American college football set against the backdrop of the Cold War. At Logos College in West Texas, huge young men vacuum-packed into shoulder pads and shiny helmets play football with intense passion. During an uncharacteristic winning season, the perplexed and distracted running back Gary Harkness has periodic fits of nuclear glee fueled by his fear of and fascination with nuclear conflict. As the line between football and nuclear warfare blurs, the actions of the players become unorthodox and even bizarre, reflecting the disconcerting reality of a world teetering on the brink of destruction. In this triumphantly funny, deeply searching novel, Don Delillo explores the metaphor of football as war with rich, original zeal. So, yeah, that sounded like a worthwhile TBR edition to me. It's going to cover West Texas college football, not high school, and it will do so more in the Cold War era. But it seems to be more of a satirical, funny, dark comedy kind of book, but also, again, using football as the backdrop for kind of serious issues, which this did from a nonfiction standpoint and was definitely enjoyable, and this does from a fiction standpoint. So I'm going to add that to the TBR, and now I'll just keep my eye out for it and see if I can find it. So, other updates. So like I said, midpoint of the month, midpoint of the book, that seems to be, other than finishing Friday Night Lights, that seems to be the theme. So, starting with what I'm reading on the Kindle. I did show this in a recent video. And right now, it's perfect timing, actually. I'm halfway through Curious Case of Benjamin Button and Other Jazz Age Stories. So actually, it's interesting with this. It's a pretty big short story collection. I've never read any F Scott Fitzgerald other than The Great Gatsby, I guess, in school, I think. So, but what this actually has is, it has two different short story collections in one. So there is Flappers and Philosophers is the first part of this. So I'm done with the first half of this, which is Flappers and Philosophers. So you see here, it's got the contents. So just going through the Flappers and Philosophers short stories, which I finished. There's The Offshore Pirate, The Ice Palace, Head and Shoulders, The Cut Glass Bowl, Bernice Bobs Her Hair, Benediction, Dalrymple Goes Wrong, and The Four Fists. And it's called Flappers and Philosophers. It's sort of based in the Flapper time period. I guess that would be like the early 1900s, teens into the 20s maybe. And, as the heading implies, it is sort of focused on, the flapper era. Most of the story's protagonist is sort of a young woman involved with a young man, and they're going, courting each other in some kind of quirky way. Definitely a lot of charm in these stories. Kind of captures the essence of that time period pretty well. I think they're usually highly educated people. There's a lot of references to like Ivy League schools. But yeah, I mean, they've been interesting. They're not that long, 25, 30 pages each, maybe something like that. But usually there's like a theme that goes through them. Some of them are just a little more one-off stories, that really don't have like a theme. But like the offshore pirate that began this collection here was kind of funny. That was involved a man who's trying to court this woman, and he coordinates with the woman's uncle, who has a boat, and the woman is out on the boat vacationing, and he stages this whole fake scene of him being a pirate commandeering the boat. And so he hops on, he kind of takes it hostage, and of course the two of them start falling for each other, and he's, little does she know, he's courting her, and he's somebody that the uncle wanted her to be with. And she falls for this pirate, and then at the end it's revealed, that he is not indeed a pirate, he is this person. And I guess it works on her, it's certainly a different time period, but it's kind of an interesting story. And then two others on here that were interesting was the cut glass bowl and the Four Fists, which to me seem kind of parallel stories, because Fitzgerald kind of employed a similar little device in those two. So the cut glass bowl, that was literally a cut glass bowl that this married couple had in their home. And what's interesting about it is it goes through sort of four different ways that the cut glass bowl brought sort of tragedy to this family. So throughout the years, specifically the woman, it does focus on the female characters the most at this portion of the short story collection. So one of which is they have a disabled daughter who I guess gets cut on the bowl and has a serious medical issue. Another one is her son is out out in the army, and I guess it's World War I at the time, I believe. And the cut glass bowl brings tragedy in that sense, in that they receive a letter informing them of his passing, and it's placed in the cut glass bowl by the maid, I guess. And then at the end, she has this big dramatic scene at the end where she falls with the cut glass bowl, and you're left to wonder if she makes it through that and survives or not. So that was interesting. And then the Four Fists, which is the last story in the Flappers and Philosophers portion of this, kind of reminded me of that other one, because it's, again, this one focuses on a male character, but it goes through four different instances of him getting punched in the face at different times in his life for different reasons. So there's he goes to a private high school, I believe, and his roommate, he gets into something with him, he punches him in the face. Then he meets years later, he meets a laborer on the train, and he's trying to get him to move to make room for a woman to sit down, and he doesn't take kindly to that. He punches him in the face. Let's see, what's the third one? Oh, then he has an affair with a woman who's married, and eventually gets caught in the house, and the husband takes him outside, punches him in the face. And then what was the last one? Yeah, the last one, it's in his, like 8 or 10 years later at that point. He's in the workforce, and he's out west somewhere he works for some mogul real estate guy, and he's out there trying to take over someone's land, basically, and like a rancher, and the rancher's trying to hold on to his land, and he punches him in the face. And then the moral at the end, I guess, is the character basically collects all these four instances of getting punched in the face as life lessons at different times, and he's got like a permanent bump on his chin from getting hit all these times, and he says, I always like to rub my chin before I make an important decision. So yeah, it's just odd, kind of funny little stories like that. Maybe that gives a little glimpse of what it's been like so far. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. But now, so I've left off here. So I'm at the Tales of the Jazz Age, and this is about the halfway mark, and the Curious Case of Benjamin Button will be in this collection, but there's a handful of others as well. So yeah, the first half of this short story collection was good, and we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, definitely some interesting little tales. Okay, so, and then halfway through, being the theme of this next part of the update here, so The Light of All That Falls, book 3, the final book in the Lacanius trilogy. And yeah, I am doing really well actually with this. I'm moving quicker than I anticipated, which I think speaks to the book. Usually, to me, it doesn't really go much further than that. It's kind of just, how easily am I getting through this? You know, am I flying right through it? Is it moving smoothly for me? Or am I fighting my way through each page? You know, that's the surest indicator to me of how I'm liking a book. And let's see, I'm on 417. So yeah, halfway through this so far, and definitely enjoying it. It's kind of ramping up toward the conclusion of the series, and I don't feel it really losing steam. It hasn't been dragging or anything. I think it's bouncing between the characters pretty well. The highlight of the book so far for me in the first half has been, and this is already an early January contender for end of the year plot payoff award, but basically there was a sort of hint throughout the first two books that one character was actually the same as another character, and without trying to go into the specifics of that, I'm happy. I'm happy to say that I'm proud of myself. I picked up on that hint. A lot of things like that go way over my head, and I do not pick up on them whatsoever, but in this case, I had this inkling. I was like, I think this guy's the same as this guy, because there's these detail that kind of connects them. But yeah, and then it was revealed in the first half of this that I was right about that. So yeah, that's just another one of those reasons why, you know, I love reading and why I continue reading, is those little moments of the plots coming together, the characters coming together, and the little hints of things, little foreshadowings paying off at some point later. So that was nice. Okay, another update halfway through. This is the library visits project for 2025 and beyond. So I've mentioned in was it my last video? No, the video where I talked about new to my reading in 2025. I mentioned that when I had some time on my hands, lunch breaks and stuff, I was going to be going to maybe more than one library. Right now I'm settled on one university library. Just going there for the short time that I have. And I will say this endeavor I've been on has actually been really nice so far. So I used the random number generator to pick the next book to read, to pick the book to read here. And so there's tons and tons of aisles and floors and different shelves. So really could have been a lot of different things. I just went with fiction to start things off with this, kind of ease into it a little bit. They have, obviously, it's a really impressive collection. I may expand the random number generator to some classics they have, some literature, like books on authors, that kind of thing. There's a vast collection of that type of thing. So I might expand it to that. But for now, I just wanted to just get this project rolling for me with a fiction book. So I ran the number generator, and I got this book here. So this is Rampart Street, David Fulmer. And this is I'm going to pronounce it the way that the book, you know, the characters in the book tell you to pronounce this. This is based in New Orleans. Rampart Street is a street in New Orleans. It's set in the early 20th century. So it's the early 1900s. So it's a historical detective story. And the detective is Valentine Saint-Cyr. So you can see up here, it's a Valentine Saint-Cyr mystery. And I'm pronouncing that again like they tell you to in the book. So this is number 3 in the Valentine Saint-Cyr Storyville Mystery Series. And I'm halfway through this. I've visited this library, I think, probably 3 or 4 times now, just in little, you know, roughly 1 hour chunks. And it's been really a fun thing so far, because the thing is, if you know you only have so much time on your hands in a given reading session to get through, you know, more of a book, it's a great motivator. You know, I mean, it kind of forces you to hunker down and continue where you left off. and put away distractions and really, laser in there, because otherwise it's sort of a wasted visit. So in that sense, it's been nice. It's been, I think, an improver of my reading focus and maybe even my reading speed a little bit, which I'm trying to do for the sake of reading more, not just to be able to read more books for the sake of it, but to be able to improve levels of focus and reading ability. And it forces you to work on your retention skills too, because, I'm visiting this library and that's the only time I have access to this book. I can't pick it up on a whim and reread a few pages or, glance at something to remind myself. And it's been really cool to, put the book back, and I have a little piece of paper I put in as a bookmark, and come back a week later and find it amongst the thousands of books. And there's my placeholder right there, and continue where I left off in a cozy, quiet, just serene environment. So it's been nice. It's been nice to introduce this new project. And so Rampart Street has been good. I'm halfway through that. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the character of Valentine Sonsier, the detective in this. It kind of is like a dark and brooding sort of New Orleans in the early 1900s, complete with very colorful characters. There's a lot of mischief going on in the city. But that's been interesting so far. So I'll hope to check in with some more thoughts on that in a little more detail when I finish it. But that is the second book now that I've picked randomly from a library that I've been visiting and reading in little increments. And like I said, it's been really, really rewarding to do that. And it's also been nice to continue the theme of random picking of books, which really keeps me going, keeps me motivated to see what the next one's going to be. And then finally, speaking of the next one, so having finished Friday Night Lights, I needed to pick the next standalone book to read off my physical TBR on my shelves here at home. And so I ran the number generator to pick my next one. And this is what I got. So this is J.F. Freedman, Against the Wind. So I just opened this one, but I really didn't even start it yet. I just kind of read the introduction and the acknowledgments, and that's about it. So this is from, and I got this from my local library's semi-annual book sale that they do. I didn't feature that haul on this channel, but this was found at that library book sale. I think it's a first edition from what I can tell. It's really, really great. I mean, it's got the cover on it and everything, and it's got the plastic cover. It's in perfect condition. It's from 1991. And as far as I could tell, it seems to be a first edition. I don't know if it's a first printing and whatnot, but it's in great shape. So this one at that book sale, I did not pick with the random number generator. I didn't just completely roll the dice on this. I came across it. It seemed like it was in great shape, and I read up on the back of it. There was some good blurbs, and it just seemed like it was interesting. So this was one that I just went ahead and picked. But just quickly, for the intro here, Will Alexander, a brilliant, flamboyant defense lawyer out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, fiercely believes that society's underdogs don't always get a fair shake in the criminal justice system. At a low point in his life, he's unexpectedly thrust into a case that will severely test his convictions. Alexander's embroiled in a second divorce, while his first wife is leaving Santa Fe with their 10-year-old daughter, Claudia, the only person who matters to Will. His drinking and sexual adventures, always a matter of concern, are now out of control, and his partners in the law firm he founded are about to force him out. And there's more to that intro, but I won't, wait for that too much longer here. But, yeah, and I will admit, there was a big blurb on the back here from Stephen King. I really haven't read Stephen King, but, I'm still interested in what he thinks on popular books of the time. And this is from the early 90s. He's probably at the peak of his powers then. Maybe he still is. I don't know. But, yeah, really nice big blurb from Stephen King here. Really loving this book. So, yeah, a bit of a legal touch to it. Seems like kind of a dark story. I think it's set out west somewhere. Oh, yeah, I just said that. Santa Fe, New Mexico. So, yeah, so I'm going to crack this open now that Friday Night Lights is done. So right now I will be reading, let's see, Against the Wind. I'll get going with this. I will continue with The Light of All That Falls. So this one got about another 400 pages to go. And then F Scott Fitzgerald, I'm about halfway through the short story, so I'll start on the Tales of the Jazz Age, and I will continue when I get those opportunities to visit the library I've been going to, and I will continue on with Rampart Street by David Fulmer, which has been good so far. So that's sort of the mid-month, mid-book update, couple things completed, and yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So hope you enjoyed the quick update. Thanks for watching, and I will be back with some more updates soon. Thanks.